50 years ago, on July 20, 1969, the world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first human beings to step foot on the moon. But despite the incredible achievement, many still question whether the moon landing was actually a hoax. In this video, we'll explore the top 6 reasons why some people believe that the moon landing was staged, and why the evidence just doesn't add up. From the lack of stars in the photos, to inconsistencies in the shadows and lighting, to claims from former astronauts and NASA employees, we'll examine the most compelling arguments for why the moon landing may have been one of the greatest cons in history. So, buckle up and let's go on a journey of discovery to see if the moon landing was real or just a well-orchestrated hoax. One of the most striking arguments for the moon landing hoax is the lack of stars in the photos taken on the moon's surface. The moon is said to be 238,855 miles away from the Earth, which means that there should be a large number of stars visible in the background. However, in the photos taken by the astronauts, there are very few, if any, stars to be seen. This has led many to believe that the photos were taken in a studio with a black background, rather than on the moon. This argument is further supported by the fact that in other photos taken by NASA during space missions, the stars are clearly visible in the background. The absence of stars in the moon landing photos is a major red flag for many who believe that the landing was a hoax. The lack of stars not only raises questions about the authenticity of the photos, but it also calls into question the very feasibility of a moon landing itself. After all, how could humans have landed on the moon without a clear view of the stars to navigate by? Some argue that the lack of stars in the photos is due to the glare from the sun and the brightness of the lunar surface. However, this argument fails to explain why the stars are clearly visible in other photos taken by NASA in space. Others argue that the moon landing photos were taken in low light conditions, but this too is debunked by the fact that the images are clearly lit and the shadows are well defined. Another argument for the moon landing hoax is the inconsistencies in the shadows and lighting in the photos taken on the moon's surface. In some photos, the shadows appear to be pointing in different directions, which is impossible if there was only one light source, the sun. This has led many to believe that the photos were taken in a studio with multiple light sources, creating conflicting shadows. Additionally, the lighting in the photos appears to be inconsistent with the conditions on the moon. The moon has no atmosphere, which means that there is no atmospheric scatter of light. This means that the lighting should be harsh and shadowless. However, in the photos, there are shadows that appear to be soft and diffused. This inconsistency in the lighting has led many to believe that the photos were taken on Earth, not on the moon. The inconsistencies in the shadows and lighting in the moon landing photos are not easily explained away by the limited technology of the time. These inconsistencies cast doubt on the authenticity of the photos and the very idea of the moon landing itself. The shadows and lighting in the photos are simply not consistent with what we would expect to see if the moon landing was real. The claims made by former astronauts and NASA employees about the moon landing hoax have added to the already controversial topic. Over the years, several individuals who were once associated with NASA have come forward to make claims that the moon landing was staged and that they were a part of a cover-up. One of the most notable claims was made by former astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who has been quoted as saying that the moon landing was a one giant leap for mankind. This statement, although meant to reflect the significance of the event, has been interpreted by some as an admission that the moon landing was staged. Another former astronaut, Edgar Mitchell, claimed that the moon landing was part of a larger government conspiracy to maintain control over the population and that the government has covered up evidence of extraterrestrial life, including the existence of aliens on the moon. Additionally, several former NASA employees have come forward to claim that the moon landing was staged in a studio. These claims are based on the inconsistencies in the photos and the lack of evidence for a moon landing, such as the absence of moon rock samples and raw footage of the events. Overall, the claims made by former astronauts and NASA employees about the moon landing hoax have added to the growing body of evidence suggesting that the moon landing was not real. Whether these claims are the result of a government conspiracy or simply the result of misinformation, the moon landing remains one of the most controversial and intriguing events in human history. Another piece of evidence that has fueled the moon landing hoax theory is the inconsistent flags waving in the windless atmosphere of the moon. In the photos taken on the moon's surface, the American flags appear to be waving in the wind, which is impossible given the absence of an atmosphere and wind on the moon. Critics argue that if the moon landing was real, the flags would have remained still and not fluttered as if they were in a windy environment. Some have suggested that the flags were artificially created and added to the photos in post-production, while others claim that they were manipulated using special effects to make it look like they were waving. In response to these claims, NASA has stated that the flags appeared to be waving due to the way they were deployed and the stiffness of the material used to make them. However, many remain skeptical of this explanation and believe that the inconsistent flags are further evidence of a moon landing hoax. Another point that has been raised by moon landing hoax theorists is the absence of significant impact craters under the lunar module. The lunar module was a spacecraft that was used to transport the astronauts from the command module to the moon's surface. Upon landing, the lunar module was expected to create a significant impact crater upon landing, due to the high velocity and weight of the spacecraft. However, in the photos taken on the moon's surface, there is no evidence of a significant impact crater under the lunar module. Critics argue that if the moon landing was real, the lunar module would have created a large and visible impact crater, which would have been visible in the photos. In response to these claims, NASA has stated that the moon's surface is composed of a soft, powdery material that absorbs the impact of spacecraft, making it difficult to see evidence of a crater. However, many remain skeptical of this explanation and believe that the absence of a significant impact crater under the lunar module is further evidence of a moon landing hoax. Another factor that has contributed to the moon landing hoax theory is the lack of high-quality, raw footage of the moon landing events. Despite the fact that the moon landing was one of the most significant events in human history, there is a surprising lack of high-quality, raw footage of the events. Critics argue that if the moon landing was real, there would be a wealth of raw footage of the events, captured from multiple angles and sources. Instead, what is available is a small collection of edited and carefully curated clips, many of which are of low quality and have been questioned for their authenticity. In response to these claims, NASA has stated that much of the raw footage was lost or damaged due to the conditions on the moon and the limitations of the technology available at the time. However, many remain skeptical of this explanation and believe that the lack of high-quality, raw footage of the moon landing events is further evidence of a moon landing hoax. As this video comes to an end, it is clear that the moon landing hoax remains one of the most controversial and debated events in human history. Despite the evidence presented by NASA and the scientific community, there are still those who question its authenticity. In this video, we explored some of the most compelling pieces of evidence that have fueled the moon landing hoax theory. Whether you believe in the moon landing or not, this topic continues to captivate and inspire people from all around the world. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing to our channel for more content like this. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you for watching.